o'clock for Robinson Township. I'd like to call this to order at 6:01 p.m. Would everyone please rise for the pledge of allegiance? Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Supervisor Rositz.
Here.
Supervisor Duran.
Here.
Supervisor Kendall.
Here.
Myself, Manager Ernest Howard. Solicitor Gretchen Moore.
Here. Okay, thank you everyone for being here tonight for part 2 of the zoning hearing amendment process here in Robinson. I also want to say thank you to Borough McDonald for allowing us to use their spaces tonight. That was very generous, and these are great facilities for tonight's hearing. This is the second public hearing on the ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the Township of Robinson, Washington County, Pennsylvania, amending Chapter 27 of the Township Code by amending the zoning ordinance of Robinson Township and to provide for a rezoning of certain parcels in the township, including a zoning map change. It's a really wordy way of saying it's an amendment to the ordinance plus an amendment to the zoning map. As you know, if you were here for the first public hearing in June, we had a hearing, so people made comments. The supervisors then considered those comments and they made a couple suggested changes to the ordinance, which we felt were substantial enough that we should have a second public hearing to allow people to voice their opinions and comments. We're going to follow the same rules and procedures for this hearing as we did the last time, and I'm just going to read those into the record so that we're all on the same page before proceeding. First, there shall be a general swearing in of all residents and visitors who are present at the public hearing. The swearing shall take place at the beginning of the public hearing portion. The township solicitor shall be the presiding officer of this public hearing. Pursuant to Robinson Township Resolution Number 0608, the township solicitor as presiding officer shall be responsible for the orderly conduct of business at this hearing. All residents and visitors who wish to speak at the hearing should sign up in advance at the start of the hearing. There's a sign-up sheet when you first enter the room. The presiding officer will read from the list in the order the residents and visitors have signed up. After the list is completed, those residents and visitors who did not sign up will be permitted to speak upon being recognized by the presiding officer. All public comments shall be heard from the podium, or we should actually, we'll have a designated area since we don't technically have a podium here. So if you could just come to the front and we could stand right here and you could state your comments from there. Pursuant to Robinson Township Resolution 0608, each speaker will be permitted to speak for a period not exceeding 3 minutes. Pursuant to Robinson Township 0608, each speaker must state his or her name and address for the record. Also pursuant to the same resolution, all public comments must be directed to the presiding officer. Speakers shall only be permitted to make public comment and should not seek answers to questions from the township supervisors or the presiding officer or otherwise engage the board. And finally, public comments shall be brief, concise, and specific as to the issue or nature of the problem. As we did last time, we're going to enter a binder of evidence into evidence. We're going to incorporate everything we entered into evidence from the last hearing, and in addition for this hearing, we are entering into evidence the new proposed zoning ordinance with the changes, the proposed zoning map, the current zoning map, a summary of the recent amendments, evidence of the advertisement, evidence of the physical posting, and evidence that an attested copy was sent to the law library, and evidence of delivery to the county planning agency. We're also including this time the formal list of residents that were notified of the zoning change from the first amendment. We had a handwritten list that time, now we have an actual typed list. In addition to those documents, we received public comment from 2 entities. First, from Greg Kobalinski from Moore Park LP. He submitted 2 documents for proposed changes to Article 5 of the zoning ordinance, and they were circulated to the Board of Supervisors. The second public comment is a two-page document of public comment from Ms. Kathy Lodge at 257 Minrad Drive, Boulder, PA. So both of those will be entered into evidence for this particular hearing. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn it over to the Township Manager to talk about some of the changes that were made since the last hearing.
First hearing for this amendment took place on June 2nd, 2014. At that hearing, the supervisors considered the comments made by the public and made the changes to the proposed ordinance. And I would like to direct your attention to the map on the wall, and also copies of the zoning map have been provided at the rear of the room. The changes to the ordinance since the last public hearing include removing the oil and gas well site development as a conditional use from the R1D, which is right here, and here, and also the R2 districts, which are just three areas, right here, this district, and right here. She also changed the time period for submitting a written application for the conditional use to 1 week prior to the regular meeting of the Planning Commission, and also banning the process of the underground injection wells in the township. Correction?
Okay. Okay, thank you for that summary. At this time, we will turn to the public hearing portion of tonight's hearing. So the first thing we'd like to do is swear everyone in case you think you may speak, or even if you don't think you may speak, you never know. So we'll swear everyone in, and then we'll get started.
Oh, sorry, everybody, right now? Oh,
Thank you.
okay, if you're going to testify, raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Mr. Jordan. Yeah, why don't you? Okay, we'll start from the top with Miss Susan C. Kendall. Oh, I'm sorry. You know what? I think we got confused that this was both a sign-up sheet and a sign-in sheet. So I'll just go down the list and you can tell me if you actually want to speak or not. Mr. David Barkhurst?
No.
No. Bonnie Moore?
No.
Mr. Richard Moore?
No.
Andrea? No.
Someone who starts with the letter J, the last name.
No.
Brenda Vance?
Can I wait so that I don't have to move the camera too many times?
We'll circle back.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Chris Amadeo?
Chris Amadeo, 15 and 2 Kendall Road, and I agree with that change.
Thank you. Mr. Bob Foley?
No.
Mr. Quint Jones?
No.
Is it Mr. Put Foley?
Maybe.
Should we circle back to you as well?
Barbie,
Should we circle back to you?
I'm waiting to see what happens.
Mr. David Foley? Yes, sir.
David Holbert, 232 Ford Road, been a lifelong resident of Township. I strongly support the new supervisor's decisions for everything we're doing. Thank you.
Miss Sandra Ulrich?
No. No.
Miss, or Mr. Jamie Duran? Sorry about that. Mr. Michael Oliverio?
Yes, ma'am.
Michael Oliverio, attorney for Brian and Susan Coppola. And Brian and Susan live at 121 Campbell Road, Bolger, PA. Madam Solicitor, we appeared at the last hearing. I asked at that time for the privilege to speak for 6 minutes, as I was speaking for both of my clients who are both here tonight, and I asked for the same courtesy this evening. Thank you. Madam Solicitor, at the prior hearing on June 2nd, I appeared and proffered to the board a memorandum of law which was prepared as an analysis of the proposed ordinance amendment currently under consideration, prior to the one under consideration on June 2nd. We've engaged in a similar analysis as to the re-proposal, and I have that memorandum here. I will cut to the chase, which is that there has been no changes to the memorandum. We would, however, like to proffer that again and submit that for the record for the board's review copies.
Thank you.
Madam Solicitor, I will not rehash my statements from the last hearing, nor will I repeat the fundamental analysis contained in the memorandum. Instead, I'd like to take a few minutes simply to expand upon those points a bit. The subject of oil and gas regulation at the municipal level by zoning is a controversial one currently within the Commonwealth. And there are a number of municipalities currently engaged in litigation, or what appears to imminently be litigation over their zoning ordinances, in light of the Supreme Court's decision in 2013 and what is called the Act 13 litigation in which, of course, this township, Robinson Township, was the plaintiff. Now, our analysis of that Act 13 decision and how it applies to municipalities is already in the memo. I won't go back over that. But what's important to note is that through a combination of excellent land use planning, foresight, and being a party to that litigation, the existing zoning ordinance and how it regulates oil and gas development in the township predicted and matches the exact analysis and requirements that we believe were laid out by the Supreme Court in its ultimate decision. The Supreme Court's decision in striking down portions of Act 13, which preempted local zoning, held that the state, and by state we read that to mean any level of the state, including a municipality, cannot execute its obligations as trustee of the natural resources if it does not analyze whether oil and gas development meets a comprehensive plan for the local area, whether it has a detrimental effect on health, safety, and general welfare on surrounding properties, and whether there's analysis of whether or not that proposed heavy industrial use is compatible with the existing surrounding uses. Now, the existing ordinance contains express requirements in Section 413 that require oil and gas development to meet each of those standards. And what is remarkable about the proposal that you are currently considering is that on paper at least, it is actually to some extent less restrictive than the existing ordinance. The existing ordinance provides that oil and gas development of all kinds, regardless of the substance of that development, is permitted in all zoning districts as a special exception, and then lists an extensive series of conditions and criteria for actually approving any proposal. Now, the ordinance that is being proposed here throws away that process entirely and makes oil and gas development a mix and match process based upon each individual type of zoning district. In some zoning districts, certain kinds of development is permitted as of right.